Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be breaking down what happened in the last monthly final qualifiers. This did conclude yesterday night, and if you've seen my Twitter, you would have seen everything unfold there. But I'll be trying to give you guys as much detail as to what actually happened. 100% honesty and transparency. That's the main aim of this video. I did want to post this on my second channel, but I thought that as many people that can see this, the better, because then you'll be knowing what actually happened and what actually went wrong in these qualifiers. But yeah, we're debriefing everything as possible. Maybe a bit of a longer video, but I did ask a lot of people on my Discord to ask me questions on what you really wanted to learn about this. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to be going over how the Swiss format works. This is going to be as easy, well, put as easily as possible for you guys. So as you can see, we've got a calculator here. Quite a lot of pros were using this one. So in our EU region, there was 1,500 teams approximately that signed up. And for the for the Swiss format, to make it fair, there should have been at least around 11 rounds. And even, I think we were supposed to, before we got told that there could be up to 16 rounds or even 14 rounds. So in a Swiss format, that's supposed to be really good, because what this does, it streamlines the better teams throughout. But obviously I'll explain as we go on. So the Swiss format is supposed to be in play to try and make it as fair as possible. So what will happen is just literally in as simple terms as possible, you'll face teams with similar records. So for example, if you've started the tournament off with 4 wins and 0 losses, and you've just literally finished that round, going into the 5th round, you'll also face teams that have a similar record. So other teams that are 4 wins and 0 losses as well. And this will keep on going. And every single round, you'll be facing the exact same record. And obviously what this does at the end of it, if there's a certain amount of rounds, the better teams will end up qualifying in the end, because you're facing very similar teams to like how you are, like I don't know how better I'm supposed to kind of say that, but as you can see here, unfortunately, because there was a bunch of downtime within the rounds, like we were playing Saturday, and I think one of the rounds, I think the first round even, it took around 6 hours to play one round, and a lot of people would have shared the same issues with me if they was playing in this tournament. EU, I believe, must have had at least 10 times the amount of teams than any other region. All the other regions had their problems as well, but ours it was catastrophic. It was so bad. And all the players, all the staff, like obviously the admins were working tirelessly to try and fix this. Their aim wasn't to try and do this at all. They didn't want any of this to happen, but it's just unfortunate it came down to this. But as you can see, they made the decision, I think, at the end of Saturday, because games just taking too long. We got onto our second game, I think around, I can't even remember now, it was really late. It was probably like 7 p.m. and we'd start this tournament at 11 a.m. So we'd been waiting around for so long, and there's no way these games should take that long. Before, the format used to be with ESL, and it was an open bracket. The first month was quite bad in that aspect, because there was no seeding. You could literally, it was just bracket luck. It was just like you could face, I don't know, you could face like Clash in the first few rounds because you have no seeding. But after that first month, you get put in seeding. So depending on how well you did in that first monthly qualifier, for example, I believe Clash might have won the first one this time last year. I can't actually remember, but they would have got first seed going into the second monthly qualifier. So then the bracket kind of evens out, because you won't be facing good teams really early on. And this is how Swiss is supposed to work off the get-go, really. It's supposed to streamline the better teams and reward you facing good teams as well. But basically, looking at this is why I brought it up. 3 teams going flawless at 9 wins and 0 losses. And that's exactly what happened. I believe it was Curse's team and Waddy's team. That's all they won it together. That's XO Free Agents. They finished 9 and 0. You also had SK Gaming, who beat Clash. Both teams were 8 wins, 0 losses, and only one team obviously could end flawless. So SK Gaming finished flawless. Then there was one more team. I forgot the actual team name, but I do know the players that play on it. Calvin, his team. They're a really underrated team. They finished 9 and 0 as well. But there were 3 flawless teams, and it left 27 teams. I think there was even more on a tiebreaker for the other remaining 5 places for the monthly qualifiers. So as you guys know, there's 8 qualifying spots for I think every single monthly region. I know for EU definitely there's 8 monthly spots there. So that meant there was 5 teams going for, well, there's 27 tiebreakers, basically 27 teams in a tiebreaker position, and only 5 spots with only 9 rounds played. And I'll show you guys why that is so unfair, because you'll see some of the calculations. It's kind of insane how it's even got to this point. So to kind of cut things short in this aspect, you'll see why when you change this to 11 rounds. So after all the waiting, we played yesterday on Monday. These games should have concluded way earlier, but because of the way it happened, we had to play 3 more rounds on Monday. We played 3 rounds on Saturday, 3 rounds on Sunday, and just made a decision that we had to play 9 rounds. But because of the amount of teams, you can kind of get why that's unfair, because what might have happened and what did actually happen because of the tiebreaker rules. I'll go over that literally in a few minutes time. But what actually did happen was teams lost really early on and didn't face the best of teams, because for example, you had teams like Totem, you had teams like Clash, SK, YDE's team. They were all 8-0 come the end of it, but then some of the good teams faced off against each other, finished off with 8-1. But because teams lost really early on, and they would have lost, for example, it's best of 3, so they would have lost 2 sets. Yeah, they would have lost 2 sets, and maybe, I don't know, it ended 2-1. But they could have faced really bad teams going all the way up until 8 wins and 1 loss, which a few of them actually did. Like, probably a lot of teams would have, because of how the Swiss format kind of works. So they'd have just faced really bad teams, got really good record, really good win set ratio. But they would have, one of the teams actually still qualified for the monthly finals, and I'll show that tweet in a little bit. So going into 11 rounds, you can calculate this, and as you can see, look how more streamlined that is. Just 2 more rounds would have literally solved everything. And that was one of the questions that a lot of people asked on my Discord, was what would you done to solve this? So the main number 1 point I would have done it to solve this is just play 2 more rounds. Like, honestly, you can't delay, as I've seen a lot on Twitter. Obviously, everything has their I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. I can't think of the word to say. But the production crew didn't really want to delay this anymore, because it has like a domino effect on a bunch of things in preparation for the monthly finals, which are happening this weekend. But when there's so much on the line, when this is literally impacting our monthly, well, our world final chances, like this sort of stuff it just cannot happen. It really cannot happen in an esport where it has so much potential. This is why I'm so frustrated and I was so mad yesterday. And it's, as I said, this different type of video before, because there's going to be not a lot of cuts in this video, and I'm not too bothered whether this video will get views, because I just want to vent somewhere and let you guys know why I'm so frustrated, why I was so mad on Twitter, and why I really think this could have been easily avoided. But obviously with a new system as well, hiccups were bound to happen. Everything was in game. There was a bunch of check-in issues where the check-in button didn't show up for a lot of teams, where that's obviously going to be happening with the first monthly qualifier. We knew this wasn't going to go smoothly, but to this extent, we never ever expected anything to happen like this. So as you can see, enough rambling on just about those kind of things. So 2 more rounds. This would have literally changed everything, because a tiebreaker should only really be used if there's like a couple of teams that have drew. That's when I've saw happen in certain esports that I've watched, when there's been a tiebreaker. There's not been many teams involved, because tiebreakers are literally there for a last resort thing to decide, like, these teams absolutely battled it out and there's not a lot splitting these guys, so you've got to go into a tiebreaker. That's the kind of thing that I think of anyway. But so you can see there's 8 spots for the monthly final, and these last 2 records, so the 11 wins, 0 losses, 1 team can get that, and then the 10 wins, 1 loss, 8 teams can get that. So what does that mean? That means 9 teams. So only 1 team needs to get chopped off from the tiebreaker to decide who goes to the monthly finals. And that is so much more fair than 27 teams in a tiebreaker and then 5 teams only making it. And it honestly, it is crazy to me how that hasn't changed. But yeah, literally what should have happened, I think 14 rounds should have happened. So you can see calculate in here, and you can see one team 14 and 0, 13 teams, well, one team 13 wins, 1 loss, and then another 8 teams, 12 wins, 2 losses. And again, this is going to streamline the better teams from the worst teams. This is going to streamline the tier 1 teams to the tier 2 teams. So you can see why I'm so upset, because I think as the longer the tournament goes on, the more matches that actually get played, the better the chance we have of qualifying, because of how much time we put into these qualifiers. BKC and Tom, I think for a month or even 2 months, played 3 scrims. So these scrims can last 2 hours sometimes. So 6 hours a day, let's just say, for example, 6 hours a day, every single day for 2 months. And for us just to literally go out in 9 rounds to what we didn't get promised, it can be really upsetting. So got to go into the more tiebreaker side of things now. All right, so different view from me. So I've got most things lined up here. I'm in the right bottom corner. Guys, not used to this, but anyways. So as you can see in the rule section, I'll post a link in the description, the complete rule book. If you guys are bothered to really read about that, I'll put the key points that you need to read really as well. But this is Swiss format. So as you can see, the line next to the number of teams, that means approximately. So approximately 100 teams, number of matches that need to be played, 10 minimum. That should be what is required for a Swiss format to take place fairly. And then for us, as you guys know, 1,500 teams signed up approximately. So that means, at least judging from their rulebook themselves, that at least 14 teams should have been actually played. So, well, at 14 rounds should have been played, sorry. So again, this is just whether I qualified or not. Probably would have done something like this, because it was just really messy on that part of things. So as you can see, even in the rulebook, it says that. Right, so moving on to this section of the rulebook, and put it as simple as possible for you guys to try and understand this. So the way it should have worked, basically why there was a big uproar on Twitter, was that the rulebook actually changed a couple of days before the monthly qualifiers, and no one was actually notified at all about these changes. And this would have honestly changed a lot, because what actually happened from this change was that people, as I explained earlier, lost early in the rounds and just faced really bad teams, and then got to the 8 to 1 point and then qualified because their set win percentage was just higher than everyone else's, because obviously they're facing worse teams, so they're going to win 2-0 at that point. And as you can see, this is what a fair kind of reflection of a Swiss format would go down, I think, as well. As I said, I don't know the ins and outs of complete fair play with Swiss, but this is just me thinking of how fair it should go down. So as the opponent's match win percentage, the primary tiebreaker will be the percentage of mean victories of all of the team's previous opponents. So putting that in easy talking, we can use it in our scenario. So I think we faced Clash at the round 7 mark. Yeah, I think it was round 7. I'll get it in game in a little bit's time. But around round 7 mark. So what we were kind of hoping, and what we really thought was the rule set, because it'd be fair. Even if we lost to Clash, they could maybe go on to get a clean sweep and get 9 wins, 0 losses. And that would mean for us in a tiebreaker situation, because we faced a tougher opponent leading up to the final result, that we should be benefited in this tiebreaker, because obviously that's kind of how Swiss works. Like, what if one team like really suffered and faced so many good teams? A good example of this was D2 Rav, my really good friend. He's a top 8 team for sure, really good. They faced, like, out of half their games, they faced 4 really top teams, and he won literally all of his games. And then it got to the point where he faced, I think he faced SK, I believe. Yeah, I think he faced SK. He lost to them, unfortunately, and then they lost the last round. But because he kept facing all of these hard teams, and it didn't even get to the point of the tiebreaker because there weren't enough rounds to be played. But he kept playing all these hard teams, and it really didn't benefit. Like, there was just nothing to benefit him facing these bad teams. But I mean, these good teams. But in reality, the harder teams you face, like I said, you should be rewarded for that, really, because it shouldn't reward you getting easy brackets, is what I'm trying to say. But as you can see, the rules did change. And then scrolling down, so the big thing that actually changed was this one right here. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this one, but from what I've seen on Twitter, I believe they added this little section here in the rulebook. So how it's kind of sorted is on match record. That is the first point of the tiebreaker. So literally through your sets, it is determined whether you qualify for monthly qualifiers or not. So again, I'll go back to the same point I made. The teams that went out early, they could have literally faced trash teams all the way up, because no offense to the people we faced after Clash, I think it was literally the round after Clash, like those guys were nowhere near on a competitive level. Like those guys were probably okay in terms of like ladder, but you can tell they'd never really scrimmed together too much and weren't even probably in like a tier 3 side of team. And this was at a point where we were 7-1. So we beat that team and we got to 7-1. So imagine what the other people that like lost early on were facing. Like that's what I'm thinking about it on that side of things. And then as you can see, set win percentage, game win percentage, head to head as well. And there was even a point where which doesn't make sense again on, I'll probably actually get it up in a second. Right, so briefly touching on this one, this is the one team example. Of course, literally zero hate to any of the teams involved, because it's just unfortunate how it all rolled out. But as you can see, Toynamuk, this is Toynamuk's tweet. I'll scroll up a little bit. He's a really, really good pro player. He was on Code Magic Black and actually teamed with KC, who's my teammate now. And he's definitely on the brink of getting towards monthly qualifiers every single time. But he beat this team, Master Clappers. Unfortunately, I'd never really heard of the Master Clappers team. I'm not too sure whether they're actually good or not. So as I said, no hate towards them whatsoever, because they still finished 8-1 in the end. But Toynamuk did beat them 2-1 in the 4th round. So obviously what this meant for Master Clappers, they faced teams. So they're 3-1 currently, going into round 5. They're going to face other teams that are 3-1. And teams that have lost so early on, relative talks, aren't going to be the best, because it's really early on. It should be way more rounds than that. There's 1,500 teams, so there's a lot of teams out there. And when it got to it, I believe it must be one of these screenshots. Let's see, I think it's actually this one. So here we have the tiebreaker. Let me zoom in. And he actually finished on 8-1 as well. You can see him. We can see it was at 14, but you can see him at, I think it was 19. So he finished 8-1. I know it's in the rulebook, it's a bit different, but like he literally beat this team and the other team got better. So it would have worked better for Toynamuk if, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, if he would have actually lost against that team and then got the easier run up, he would have qualified. So that to me just makes zero sense. It needs, just the main way of fixing that is by playing more rounds. And he's got a better head-to-head record. He literally beat them fair and square, and he somehow doesn't get to monthly qualifiers. So that's one thing. So as you can see, again, I'll probably post this somewhere on my Discord if you guys want to save this photo. I could take a screenshot of this. So I'll probably zoom in a little bit more here, so you can see it a bit easier. So you can see here we're 14th out of, I think, 30 teams, even higher than 30 teams. So as you can see, there's 3 teams that I've got 9 wins and 0 losses. And you can see SK Gaming, they literally lost 1 set, so fair play to them. They faced D2 Rav's team, and they faced Clash. I don't think they faced many other, well, they faced a Portuguese team who are really good as well. But then Cursed, they faced Fexy X, their Munez's team, if you guys know them, but they're a half decent team as well. FA Trio, no disrespect to those guys, I know them really well, really like their team, but they're definitely, I think they won't like regard me saying that because they're a fairly new team. They're definitely a tier 2 team, and no one really expected them to get towards the monthly qualifiers, and they finished off 9-0. Obviously, zero disrespect to those guys, and you can clearly see, I know it's not too much to tell the story, but look at game percentage win in comparison to a lot of different people here. They were literally on the lower end of a spectrum as well. on the side of that thing. So you can see Clash getting... See, Clash even got lower. Yeah, they got lower somehow than Master Clappers. Like Clash were 8-0 going into the final one and facing off against SK Gaming, and they still somehow got worse seeding than Master Clappers. That is, to me, just absolutely insane. So the way things kind of went about, what I'll do on my second channel as well, I didn't actually mention this, I'll go over the games and speak more about it as well. And you can see 3 sets we actually lost. So we lost 2 sets against Clash, and we lost 1 in the final round against Zero Zone Spain, who are a really good team. So no disheartened about that. So obviously you guys could be just saying, why didn't you just win all your games? Like, that's a good point as well. Like, obviously we could have won all the games and we would have qualified. So it's not discrediting that. We still have things to work on ourselves because we didn't win every single game, but just kind of a flawed system in what it was. It's just really unfortunate and can have a massive effect on not just us, on every other team. You got teams like Totem literally below us who are a top 8 team as well. They've been screwed over by this kind of system. You got Code Magic, you have all these other great amazing teams that have been kind of messed over by this system. So what could have happened as well, even if we didn't, I believe, drop a set against Zero Zone Spain, that still wouldn't have been enough for us to qualify, which is kind of crazy. Imagine, like, literally only losing against Clash, winning every other game, and still not even getting a chance to get qualified because of how many teams are in the tiebreakers. So not really much more to say on this point thing. I think I've rambled on for a little bit too much, so I'll probably just go over some questions that you asked now. Right guys, so just going into the most frequently asked questions now to close off the video, and we're going to be just looking over. So this was the games straight after we lost to Clash. So bear in mind that both teams, I believe, were 6-1 at this point. Yeah, 6-1. There must have been. And by the way, the bans for this were Bo and Tara, Amber, and someone else. But going into the first question over on Discord, how do you think they could improve this tournament? So I spoke quite a little bit on this one, but the main thing for me, unfortunately, there was a lot of errors to do with the systems and whatever else. But because of how long we'd all waited anyway, I'm sure with 27 teams in the tiebreaker, that it wouldn't hurt either doing like a knockout system where all of those 27 teams will ever play like a mini tournament the next day, or just literally 2 more rounds the next day would have solved literally everything. It would have been so much fairer. And after all of these problems, hopefully next month a lot of these issues would have been resolved. As I said, like, none of this could have been perfect the first time around, but it's just kind of how they handled the fairness, which just really doesn't sit right with me. And the next question actually comes from Deadeye. How do you think the organization could better run the tournament in the future? Again, this is basically the same question, but for sure, anything's got to kind of be better than how it was with this side of things. So I'm hoping they have a more fluid system as well. There's a lot of teams not checking in. There's a lot of teams not turning up. So there needs to be also some kind of like DQ system, I'm hoping, in the future, which actually penalizes teams that don't get into the room on time, that don't ready up in time, that kind of thing. There needs to be some sort of system else. These teams are just going to keep doing it over and over again. Obviously, the admins can't be really at fault for this. They answered a lot of questions on time, so big props to those people. But it just seemed like there was just too many teams to handle, and it just got really messy at that point. So, as you can see, we've won this game. Let's go to the next one. I won't even bother cutting that, so we're going to go into this one. So again, Snake Prairie, a bit crazy on that point. So next question, I can see. See. This one's a bit off from the questions from what happened this weekend, but someone asked, I want to ask you, you're going to leave Tribe since you and Tom and contract expired. So at the moment, we're not contracted to Tribe. We are still a free agent team, the team named Tea Drinkers. I've seen questions asked about that as well. Why called Tea Drinkers? It's just a meme about the UK culture. Everyone just thinks we eat tea and we drink tea, we eat crumpets. You know, everyone thinks we're like royalty and we act like royalty over in the UK. It's just like a kind of meme. But yeah, we haven't really set anything in terms of orgs to sign for. We've got no contract offers at the moment, so I'll keep you guys updated on Twitter if you want to keep up with this one. Someone asked, do you think that this new system is better than the old ESL system? So at the moment, obviously nowhere near better, because even though it was open bracket and you could get really unlucky with the seedings you get faced off against, at least after one monthly qualifier, you'll get seeding and it'll be a lot easier and a lot more fairer in the long run, especially with it when there's 8 spots for the monthly final. I feel like that still would have been a really good system. I feel like they probably overcomplicated it a little bit too much for a game like Brawl Stars. Didn't really need a Swiss format, especially when it's so complex as it is. I felt like this old system was still pretty much fine, to be honest. ESL, there were a few problems with ESL. There's a lot of waiting times. There's a lot of other problems like that, which I can't really remember right now because of how overshadowing this one is. But in short terms, I definitely would have preferred the ESL format over this one. Maybe this one has more potential because it's literally a tab in game, as you can see here. It's literally a tab which that has so much potential. So again, we're going to be going into our next one, just showing like the kind of level we were facing off against. Again, no disrespect to this team, but it was just really easy games after we faced Clash, which is just crazy to me. So let's see how big. This is what Atkins said. Another pro that kind of got messed over by this, unfortunately. How big of an impact of this month will be on the rest of the year? Example, points for finals, seeding for future qualifiers, etc, etc. So this is going to have a huge impact, I feel like, in the long term. It's only 1 month out of 8, so by all means we still have a fair chance. Well, not really a fair chance, but a chance to get to monthly finals, because there's still 7 more monthly qualifiers. But it's the fact that we didn't get a fair real chance at it, and that kind of doesn't sit well with me. You got teams like our biggest rivals for sure are going into this, are the likes of SK, Clash, YDE's team, and although they did really well to get to where they were, like, there still should have been more rounds played. These teams still potentially might not have made it to the monthly qualifiers if the amount of rounds permitted were made, which obviously doesn't sit well with me. Also, because we're the rivals, they're going to be getting points against, no offense to the teams that made it again, but they're going to be facing off against lesser teams, and they could get more points in the monthly finals this weekend than they probably would have if everything was more fairer. Like, they're going to face lesser opponents. They're going to be winning games a little bit more easier. Probably going to be getting that head start, which in other terms I think we were prepared so well, and I honestly really believe that if we just played as normal as a team with the amount of practice we got, we would have qualified pretty simply. But actually, wait, this is in the wrong game. Give me a second to get into the last Brawl game, so 2 minutes onto that one. So it's just going to have a really big domino effect on the way this year goes. And again, we're starting off the year not as intended. Like last year, we lost the first 3 monthly qualifiers and then still nearly made it to the World Finals. So just showing that we still love an underdog story. Me and Tom personally have been through this before, so we know what is to entail. And that's another question a lot of people are asked, am I mad about this? And of course I'm mad. The easy option would have been to win the game against Clash, and we would have basically been qualified. But when it's a best of 3 and Clash are as good as a team as they are, literally probably I would say they are the strongest team in EU right now. And our Siege game, as I said, I'll go over my second channel. Siege game was really close. It shouldn't have been 2-0 in sets. I'm sure Clash would agree on that as well. It was so close margins, and against a team like that, literally anything could happen. It was probably a coin flip. Honestly, it was a coin flip on who would win that game, and for it just to be decided on that one game is pretty crucial for us. Also, one by Maria, one of my admins. Do you think it would have been better to play another round to make it more fair? I think I actually answered this one because players already played for 30 hours anyway, and a couple more hours would have literally made the world of difference. Like she literally put in the question, a few more hours of playtime, having waited literally 3 days to play 9 rounds anyway. I think 2 more rounds really wouldn't have hurt anyone to make it more fair. If the admins were to say, you know, it's already a bit messy right now, and to make it a fair experience and as intended in the rulebook, to play a few more rounds, it would have hurt nobody. And by then, if 11 rounds had gone and we didn't qualify, I 100% would have just put my hands up and said, you know what, we just didn't play well, whatever, you know, something just didn't click. We didn't deserve to qualify. Like, I would have 1,000,000% said that, 1,000,000%. But because of how it went, unfortunately, it has led to this video of me sounding really salty. But at the end of it, it's just how it kind of is. So I think I actually answered quite a lot of these questions already in my Discord. Let's see here, we're actually scoring against those guys. So I probably will just go over to some scrim gameplay instead and not ruin the gameplay of the other one. So this was just literally warm-ups before, just testing a few things, Daryl and Siege. Question that's not really related to the qualifiers themselves. This is a really long video, by the way. Probably will be like 30 minutes. Why is Max so good in comp and average on ladders? So the reason why Max is so good in competitive is because you can speak in VC, you can synergize really well. The max speed together with a lot of different brawlers is so good. You've just, obviously, if you're max speeding, you've got to get to destinations quicker. You're going to be harder to hit. You're going to hit shots on the enemy easier. And it's just amazing synergy. It counters the longer range brawlers like Piper. It can counter brawlers with low DPS, brawlers that haven't good accuracy, like Mr. P at long range hasn't got good accuracy. Max really good at dodging that, etc., etc. That's a short way around it. Dex, another respected person in the community, said, what as a pro player do you think is the next step that could make things better for your team moving forward? So for me, obviously we'll be waiting for times before rounds so we could actually get the rounds intended to get played, and I just feel like that would basically solve everything. So obviously less downtime. We need to think of a way to DQ teams much quicker, because if, without being toxic or salty, a lot of these teams would basically, I know they say they try and make it fair for everyone, like anyone can reach monthly finals, but a lot of these teams that sign up, they should know themselves they don't really have a chance to actually make it to the monthly finals. So if anything, they're kind of wasting time on these little games as the rounds go on. They're kind of wasting times on these games that really don't matter as such. They should be focusing without being too... Look, it wasn't a pleasant experience for literally everyone, but as it gets to the end of the rounds, they should just be focusing more on the top end of things to try and get the ball rolling on that thing. And I feel like you shouldn't have to wait for every single opponents to be played as well. But yeah, that's kind of... I've already spoken enough about that one. Let's see if we can find any more. Would you redo this monthly? Someone asked. I probably won't redo it. As I said, just 2 more rounds. I think that'll be more sufficient. Do you think they will change the system after receiving all of this criticism? I think they'll just fine line a lot. As I said before, there's going to be issues with this for sure. It's the first time they've actually done it, so... it's going to be issues. There's going to be a lot of teething problems, as you call it, and it's going to get streamlined down the line. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, they should be able to resolve these issues. So I've got good faith in Supercell that things will turn around. And next, let's see if we can find another one. While there are no more than 9 rounds conducted by the esports team, and if there were more rounds, would it have sorted the tiebreaker issue? Yeah, I did say that it would have definitely resolve the tiebreaker issue. How often do you scrim to practice, etc., and where do you arrange them? Just want to ask, but basically, as I said, we scrim 3 times a day, every single day in preparation to this, because we knew the first monthly qualifier is so important to starting off as a good year. You qualified for first monthly qualifier, then you have a bit of room to mess up down the line, but the longer you leave it to get that first qualifier on board, just like last season, the harder it gets down the line. So this is why it's so important. This is why I'm stressing so much on this video. Let's see. Are you happy and satisfied with what you and your team did? Do you think you could have done anything better, or did you do your best? Obviously, I'll go over those games second channel. We could have done better. There's always room for improvement when we lose. But I'm really satisfied with how we played. First tournament that we actually got to play together. First time like doing this kind of monthly qualifier thing together. There were some close games with Clash that To be honest, there was a few issues to be made, but I don't think there was any major problems with our team. It wasn't like, oh, one of us needs to get dropped, you know, this isn't going to work kind of thing. It was just a few small errors, which we already just streamlined in VC straight away. We know where we went wrong, and we know how to improve. So, yeah, I'm happy with my team 100%. I've got full faith in my team that we'll be able to pull through for the rest of the season. So I'm really excited about that. I've got an amazing team. Drage, Casey, and Tom. Another question as well I've got asked that I remember was about Drage and how that will impact things for the future. Drage at the moment is our coach. He will be available to play in a few months' time, I think, because he's 15. But he's been absolutely amazing for us. Probably the best player in the world, honestly. He's such a bright prospect for the esports side of things. And his game knowledge is basically like top of the game. His mechanics are amazing as well. And of course, our team's going to get better when he's able to play. But the fundamentals around it, I feel like with or without Drage, when it comes to it, I feel like we still would have been stuck in the same scenario because of the system. And literally, there's only 3 teams out of all the amazing teams in Europe that actually finished flawless because of how things work. So I feel like regardless, some other top tier team, we're going to get screwed over. It just happened to be us because of our unlucky bracket. Let's see, anything else? Atkins again. Can you 100% honestly say you're motivated for Brawl Esports 2021, which is a good point after what has happened. So I've already seen on Twitter a bunch of pro players have already quit. And to be honest, all of our team was so angry and demotivated last night. And we've already gone through it a lot. It's been super tough for us to try and stay motivated. And it's been hard for me to make this video, you know, this morning. Without being a sob story, it did take me a little while. Well, I'll show the esports tab right here, but as you can see, the results right there. But as I was saying, it did take me a long time to get out of bed because I was just so demotivated to do anything. But as I said, we've been through this before, so we'll get through it again. A few more questions to end off the video because it's super long. Let's see what else. Someone asked about age verification. I feel like there needs to be some sort of age verification as well. Some of the players we're facing were just, you can tell they were not 16 years old. Like, some people were crazy fanboying on Twitter to like teams like Clash, saying, oh, we're not going to play this game unless you give us a friend link. Like, we're not playing until you give us a friend link. Like, only people that are so immature are going to be saying those type of things. So I feel like there needs to be some sort of age verification, but a bit more stricter, because there's no way, with how messy this is, some of these people are 16 years old. You've got to be mature if you're 16 years old. That's what I'm hoping anyway. See if there's any more to close off the video. See, someone said, how many points do you think will be needed to qualify, assuming 14 rounds or so are actually played in future months? That was kind of hard because you see the point system on this left here. It's kind of hard to say that, but as I broke it down, I think you will need 12, if there's 14 rounds, 12 wins, 2 losses, which is fair enough. Then you're fairly qualified anyway. And that's probably it. Yeah, that's probably it for now. So if I missed anything, you can ask me on Discord. And it's a very long video, really uncut video. I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling on for this amount of time, but that's going to be the end of today's video. My throat is absolutely at it right now. I'm speaking so much, but that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.